to listen to the Lap Traffic Podcast.
What is up, Lap Traffic Nation? Welcome to episode 266 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. I am your host, the Professor Brandon Crowd. Hope you all had a fantastic holiday season, a great new year. So great to be back behind the mic. I made sure to set aside like an extra 10 minutes to make sure I could turn everything on and get it working. I cannot believe tonight is going to kick off season 6 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. It's been a hell of a journey. 5 years in the books, 5 seasons in the bank, whatever you want to call it. Can't wait for season 6. So much that I know we're going to have to talk about over the next, 50 plus weeks by the time it's all said and done here. So let's get right into it. Lap Traffic Nation joining me on the line to kick off season 6, which is going to be awesome, making his unprecedented 21st appearance on the show. My good friend and yours from the PETM podcast. It's Andrew Sherwin. What's up, man?
I mean, it seems like every time I talk to you, I'm in a different city now. So I say I hate all you Detroiters and Midwesterners that are cold as hell right now. It's cold as we'd like it to be in the South for sure.
Coldest.
You can have it back. You can have it back whenever you want it back.
Dude, coldest day of the winter so far today. Fortunately, we really have not gotten a whole lot of snow. I'd say total accumulations have probably been under 5 inches. That's what she said. That's where we're going. We really haven't gotten a ton of snow, but it's definitely starting to get cold as it tends to do up here in Michigan.
Yeah, well, I was trying to tell the person that I live with now that I said, we got winter coming up for like the next 10 days, like for real, actual normal for Georgia winter, which means highs in the low 50s and lows in the 30s.
I'd kill
She's
for
like,
that.
I'm like, yeah, it's not going to be fun for us, but it's all proximity, right? What you're used to.
Absolutely.
Because she asks me all the time, for your listeners that may not know this voice or whatever, I did spend like 20 months over on the west side of Michigan, so I'm familiar with what the weather's like. And I was like, you just get used to it because everybody's in coveralls and stocking caps and like gloves all the time, and nobody cares what they look like because they're all in the same boat. They just want to be warm.
Yep, absolutely. Yes, I am with you. So listen, man, we've got a lot to talk about. And to be honest, the first half of the show probably isn't going to be a whole bunch of NASCAR, but we will get that into the mix. You and I haven't chatted in a while, so you and I need to catch up. We need to catch up, Lap Traffic Nation, the PETM posse. So we're just going to shoot the shit here for a little bit. PETM style, I've got one sheet of paper here versus my usual book that I print out on any given Tuesday. But before we get started, I just got to steal the show for a second and just kind of apologize to Lap Traffic Nation here. I kind of did this on episode 265 way back in November. But, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, tonight starts season 6, and season 5 did not end how I wanted it for me. Sherwin, you know me well. I wanted to go all pomp and circumstance and play the hype for, a milestone ending year with season 5 of the show. And unfortunately, with my grandpa passing, I just lost a little drive there towards the end of the season between, him being sick, traveling for work, trying to get ready for the holidays, Lindsay being pregnant. So I really kind of phoned in the end of season 5 to the show, and I apologize about that. And to continue with the transparency, everyone, I'm not sure how the start of season 6 is going to go because the baby is due the week before Daytona. So this year's show might look a little different as things especially get kicked off. I'm definitely going to plan to do as many shows as possible on as much a consistent basis. Gone maybe are the days of the 2-hour shows of season 4 and 5, and might be more closer to the 30, 45-minute shows. Definitely going to do the Lucky Dogs, the weather with Aaron and Brian, and Lap Traffic Fantasy, which if anybody wants to play, feel free to shoot an email to fantasylaptraffic@gmail.com. Definitely going to try to do the staples of the show, but things might look a little different to kick things off. So just wanted to be as open with everybody. There's no doubt that we'll be here, but things might look a little different. So that's fair.
Well, that happens, man. Life happens. It's been an intense 2 months since this season ended.
Yeah.
I know it has been for you. It has been for me. It has been for a lot of people I know. That I don't know if it's always been like that, and I just hadn't been paying attention because of just being a single bachelor all these years or what. But it's been a little bit of a wild ride since the end of the season.
Yes. So we got to get into that. But first, Sherwin, I can't believe 10 years into Lindsay and I being married, and we are less than 4 weeks away from having a kid, dude.
I'll tell you what, dude. I'm gonna tell you, I'm super excited for you and Lindsay, and especially excited for it to be a February baby.
Yes.
I myself am a February baby. My family seems to be riddled with them as well. My current girlfriend is a February baby. So
it's a thing.
We're Aquariuses and Pisces in the house.
My niece, who turns 4, her birthday's February 17th. My dad's is February 15th, and Alden's expected date is on Valentine's Day. So we'll see when he decides to make his presence felt. So. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I was supposed to be a January baby, but I showed up to watch the groundhog.
6
I was a
more
little
weeks.
late.
A little late. Oh, that's great. All right, man. So, like you said, you've had a lot going on. Before we get into all that, and I want you to take as much time as you need with that. But first, man, how was the Christmas? How was the New Year's? I can't believe it's been a year since you were last up here celebrating New Year's with us.
God, it seems like so much longer. Obviously, there's plenty to talk about, but just in the short term, I mean, I know we had a lot of crossover before. I would assume some of that crossover still applies, so people know who they're listening to, or at least have a vague idea of who they're listening to. But yeah, so I live with another human being now, which is a whole new adventure for me. She has 4-year-old twins and a soon-to-be 9-year-old. So I went from being a 40-year-old bachelor to being a 40-year-old, co-parent of 3. So that's been interesting. Seeing kids do Christmas was from the giver side, the provider side, is a pretty exciting experience. I've done my best to assimilate to the concept of just treat them like they're best you can, like they're yours, and then you'll enjoy everything more.
Sure.
So I've kind of taken to that. It's been a while. I'll suspend some of the things that have made Christmas and New Year's and stuff different. I can't believe that it was, 5 or 6 days ago, a year ago, that I was coming home from having visited you and Lindsay up there in Detroit. And I think it's safe to say I'm plenty healthy enough now that the only thing I'm waiting for is, figuring out what's next for work. And then once you get that baby settled down, when I'm coming back to Detroit.
Absolutely, yes. And you're bringing your golf clubs with you this time. That's for sure.
100%.
Yes.
I got a brand new set. Well, new to me, right?
Right.
I haven't talked about that either. I've got a set of originally forged Ping Black I2s that haven't been swung yet.
Nice.
By yours truly. So I'm pretty excited about those.
I will tell you, as we were talking about the weather a little bit ago, as short of a golf season that the state of Michigan has, it has some impeccable golf courses. There's one public course that's literally a quarter of a mile from the house that we call the shooting gallery. But, we take a 20-minute drive and we get some very nice golf courses around here, which is awesome. So, yeah, we can squeeze that in. Lindsay has promised me that, excuse me, the show will go on and that I get to still play golf. So I am going to hold her to that. And we'll see where we're at. But, yes, definitely you and I have a date on the golf course this early summer at the latest. So,
yeah, I hear you. Well, it'd be pretty cool to drag Kristen with me and just let her and Lindsay play baby.
Absolutely.
And we'll go play golf.
Don't tempt me with a good time. I'm all about that, man. Oh, man. And all right. So speaking of New Year's, real quick, last night was the national championship game, Alabama and Georgia. I feel less bad about Michigan shitting the bed to Georgia since they at least won the national championship. It makes that pill a little easier to swallow right now because, man, did Michigan play. That's not the Michigan that finished out the season beating Ohio State, beating Iowa. But I think maybe they were probably fatigued, and it's a different ball game when you're playing Georgia and Alabama.
It is, as much as if you're outside of that bubble, you don't want to say it, but there's a reason why I turn it on, even though I'll talk some smack about the SEC. And mostly I'm not really talking smack about their football teams. I'm talking smack about their sidewalk fans. I'm just joshing for anybody out there that's listening. But you know who I'm talking about. It gets a little. You guys have the same thing going on up there with
we're
Michigan and Ohio State
Wolverine
and stuff.
Fans. Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it is down here, you know. And then we just have it's like, the Southeast has cultivated this baby that is college football, and that's really all anybody cares about down here. But yeah, it's like one of those things where we all have friends that go to that school that we hate. So we're happy for them in the moment, but I'm not excited for all the red and black that I'm going to see over the course of the next 3 or 4 years.
Right. Well, it's just like we all have, like with my Kevin Harvick fandom, like, all right, I'm happy for my friend that his driver won, but man, I can't stand that driver won all on the same breath. Oh.
Yeah, well, that's been a lot of fun for me, because you and I we just hadn't even really ever talked driver smack at all. I guess I don't really subscribe to that idea very well.
No, I would say the only time was when we were in Darlington and Harvick wrecked Chastain in the Xfinity race. I think that was the only time that you and Rusty laid it on a little thick because we were actually in person, so it was deservingly so. So
yeah, I do recall that was definitely a thing that happened. But through all that stuff with Chase, it was just kind of like we just kind of talked about it and laughed. We're like, yeah, this is and now with podcasting, the way that stuff goes, and those guys are sort of spilling the beans, and Harvick's one of the best interviews in the sport. It's hard to hate the guy, really.
Yeah.
He talks about why he does certain things, and you're like, well, a lot of this is. This is me supporting my team. Like, they expect me to stand up for their hard work. And if that means I got to say something silly, stupid, or just a little out of control, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I respect that.
Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
like I respect, Chase flipping people off and, saying goofy things. Like, I get it. They're all trying to wallow out their space, and this is the only way they do it. It's different than college athletics, for instance, where you have 50, 60, 70, 100 guys, In race car driving, there's one dude that gets on television.
Yep.
There's 5 guys that do all the work that you see kind of happen on TV. And then there's the 300 people at the shop that nobody ever sees.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I'll tell everybody, Harvick fan aside, if you have if you have not listened to the Dale Jr. Download with Kevin Harvick, that's probably one of the best interviews and shows that I've listened to. I thought that was fantastic. Great insight. Those two kind of buried the hatchet and let it all out from when they had their little spat from a few years ago, talking about when Kevin Harvick made a remark to the degree of juniors hurting the sport, so to speak. They aired out grievances and talked about everything. So I can't recommend that specific episode enough. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the Dale Jr. Download is the best racing podcast that is in syndication.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, and then we can get into some other stuff, but I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the Lions and the Atlanta Falcons. Lions close out the season with a win against Green Bay's practice squad, and we'll get the number 2 pick in the draft with no quarterbacks on the board. It was a Lions season to a T. They go out there, they win some games where they could have gotten the first pick overall. They have a tie in an extended season. Jared Goff, shits the bed for the first 12 weeks of the year. Dan Campbell, new coach. Yet everybody loves him. It was just 100% your typical Lion-esque season, and I'm going to go write them a check for $1,500 in about 3 weeks. So,
yeah, I tell you what, if being a sports fan is what really drives the entertainment side of your life, or one of the big slivers. I sit there and I struggle with the thought of going and handing over another $450 to watch whatever it is that Georgia Tech is doing on Saturdays in the fall, because playing football, I'm not sure that's what it is. And you have some expectations. You're realistic if you understand what you're looking at and what all the different components are. But at the same time, it's like, this is bad, and it's like, you talk about the Falcons, like, they got all this neat stuff. They got this owner that has more money than he knows what to do with, but overall, pretty disorganized from the get-go. For 20 years now, under Arthur Blank, you've got 2 bright spots that ultimately look like really nasty smudges. The further you get away from it, the less, the more, I don't know, rust. It's not patina anymore; it's rust from being in the Super Bowl. It's like, ugh, just kind of like. Because you look at what happened since, and you're like, okay, was that an accident? I don't know. It kind of almost looks like an accident.
Right. Yeah. Like that was the outlier. Hey, at least we're not the Giants and giving away a free large Pepsi.
All right. The Giants. I didn't. But as much as the other cities around the country are talking about the once proud New York franchises and how they're just not holding up their end of the bargain as far as being a New York City franchise is concerned. It's like, I don't know how you fix that, because it appears it must be a lot harder to fix than, you would think it is.
Yeah. Well, and you wouldn't think it would be that hard in a market as large, as dedicated as the fan base, with the financial resources from the fan base, with TV money and advertising for that market. You would think, it would be a little easier to fix than, say, Jacksonville, but it may not be in the grand scheme of things. And just to fill you in on that. So it was a couple weeks ago, the Giants sent out to their season ticket holders that it was season ticket holder appreciation day at the stadium or whatever, something to that effect. And the appreciation was a free medium Pepsi. They weren't even going to go out and go all out and give you like the souvenir take-home cup. It was going to be the free medium Pepsi in the paper cup. And then people lost their mind because it wasn't per seat that you had. If you had 4 season tickets, it was a singular free medium Pepsi to the one account holder for the season tickets. So,
God, you talk about short-sighted.
oh my God. Like, wow. Yeah.
That's unbelievable, especially when you consider what the markup is on everything
Yeah.
at an NFL stadium, and then consider what the keystone is on a soft drink.
Right.
It's like 100,000% or something.
Yeah. It's absurd. It's
Yeah.
absurd. Yep. All right, man. Well, listen, you mentioned a little bit ago, got a new girlfriend. Lots been going on with you, man. Take the mic, man, and fill everybody in on what's been going on with you over the last few months.
Whew. Yeah. You know what? I should have written some of this down so that I don't ramble as much. But so, yeah, for, new listeners, old listeners, whatever, co-host PETM podcast, we ran ours for 5 years too. We're on the same pace as Brandon there for quite some period of time. And that all ended on, I guess, June 1st. I felt like crap. There, you can see the episode on YouTube. You can see that it was like the first episode ever where I didn't have an alcoholic beverage. And that's the rest of the discussion is, I got that really super happy fun time diagnosis of you don't get to do this anymore because you did it too hard for too long. And unfortunately, I didn't get to make the decision for myself. Somebody had to make it for me because it almost killed me a couple of different times over the course of the next month or so. And so I've, since about June 2nd, have spent that time since now in some stage of recovery from the affliction of overdoing it for a long time. And I hope by maybe sharing a little bit of my my process that somebody may be able to come to the conclusion on their own that it might be time to check up a little bit, or at least see your doctor regularly. I hadn't seen a doctor in 16 years. Chances are really good I don't end up going into a hospital after the local police kicked in my apartment door. My sister from Ireland, she's not from Ireland, she's in Ireland, called in, a bed check essentially, and they kicked my door in and dragged me to the hospital, and I was about as close to death as you can get. Most of the numbers that registered in my blood test said that I was dead. So I just happened to not be. That's pretty dire, but that's reality.
Yeah.
And it seemed like every time I saw a new doctor, they're like, yeah, well, 2 out of 3 people don't walk out of here with that condition, or 3 out of 5 people don't last 6 months on this condition. And, you made it to this stage. Yay. Maybe you have 18 to 24 months, or maybe you have 2 or 3 years, if you behave yourself, to all the way through a process of, you told me what I can't do. Let me show you what I can. I went all the way from, having an outlook of 2 years to I don't even need a transplant for probably 10.
That's incredible.
I don't have to see a doctor again for another 2 months. And so things are coming up pretty good for me in that respect. Obviously, there's a lot of other aspects of life that have to get cleaned up. One of the things that helps is to be gainfully employed if you go through this process, which is why I would suggest that you choose to do it on your own and not be forced into it. Thankfully, I had a lot of really, really good friends that were basically by my bedside, holding my hand through some of this stuff, because it did come down to that to a degree. And then just along the way, just kept proving doctors wrong and proving them wrong and proving them wrong, and having really aggressive doctors helps. Having a really good insurance program helps. I know not everybody has that choice, but if you do have good insurance, take advantage of it. That's the reason why you pay for it.
Absolutely.
So do that. Do all the things they tell you to do. I mean, you can't. Some of this is luck. Okay, some of this is just pure genetics on the bad side and the good side, and you have to make conscious good decisions for yourself, and because nobody's going to do it for you until they basically take the wheel out of your hand and say you're not in control anymore. we're going to do it for you until you can handle being an adult again. And that's an interesting place to be at 40. It's an interesting place to be in a bed at 40 and have a doctor come in your room and say, you're not supposed to have this at 40. Like, what's going on with you? And I'm like, well, I do. So now what?
Right. Yeah.
That's what age I am, and this is what I got. So let's fix it, or do whatever we can to fix it. I want to live to 80. That's the goal. So let's figure it out. So I got halfway more to go as far as I'm concerned. And I've lived up to my end of the bargain. I'm 200 and let's see, let me pull it up really quick so I get it right. Health notes. As of today, I'm in the wrong page. Of course I am, right? Sorry to your listeners.
Oh, you're good.
As of today, I'm 224 days without an alcoholic beverage.
It's awesome, man.
Don't even care. I go to places all the time where they serve. It's not even a thing. If you can get mixed up with some friends that have already gone through this process, that certainly helps. My girlfriend's been sober for the better part of 7 years, minus a blip here or there, a decision she made on her own based on some things she didn't like about herself when she drank. But she's also a parent, so that played a role too. So anyway, if anybody hears this and has been thinking, maybe I do this a little bit too much, well, you probably do. And it doesn't mean you have to quit. It's not the end of the world. You can still have fun. One of the really cool things about it is you can go anywhere you want, whenever you want, any time of day, no matter what, because you're not drunk.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there is that. I've come to realize since then through a lot of reading, a lot of soul searching, understanding personality, that a lot of it for me had to do with knocking the edge off anxiety. It wasn't that I really enjoyed being drunk that much. It was that I get really anxious in social settings around people that I don't know. And I was knocking those edges off just a little bit too hard.
Sure. Well, man, I'm glad we're here. I'm glad you're talking with me. As I said before we started recording, you look fantastic. Color's good. I mean, you got a good presence about you from a Zoom perspective, which says a lot, I think. So, kudos to you and your dedication to not succumbing to it and wanting to kick this thing in the ass and persevering.
Yeah. Well, it's been a wild ride. There's been a lot of things that have been really sort of exhilarating about it. I mean, obviously I haven't dated anybody in probably 15 years. And I went from date 3 to living with current.
Hey, when
just
you
like
know,
that, which
you know.
The older you get, the easier decisions like that are to make. But, I did something else I'd never done, which I know you're audio only, but you haven't probably seen this. I got a tattoo to commemorate the whole process. I don't know if you can see this or not.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
It's a big blue rose.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's all about my sister. I wrote her a really nice note, just totally scared shitless that she would hate it because we're not really tattoo people in our family. And she said, you know what? I love it. And you wouldn't believe this, but I was thinking about getting a rose tattoo myself. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
So that's, yeah. So now I'm like a pseudo dad, and I have a really cool girlfriend, somebody I've known since high school. We joke about that all the time, that we've known each other for 26 years.
That's crazy.
we were never really friends. We just knew who each other were. We were a little bit both too shy to speak to each other, which is super ironic. But yeah, I mean, I'm itching right now. Like whenever this is over, I'm packing the car back up and I'm headed south. I live 30 miles away, but my parents got the good internet. So we're out in the sticks with the goats and the chickens.
That's awesome. Oh man. Yeah. It's crazy when it's, I got a buddy, Zaylen, him and I would have gone to high school together. We went to the same grade schools, but we went to different high schools, and it's just like, high school just seems like it was yesterday, but then you start doing math and you realize, shit, it wasn't yesterday. Like, it wasn't anywhere near yesterday. And that's crazy how, people that you met early on, you're still connected and associated with. And that's crazy. That's awesome, man. I'm so happy for you.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a hell of a journey, and to have that be a part of it. Man, when you got somebody that you can just, it doesn't matter what you do, they don't have any interest in the party and stuff, and you don't have any interest in it. It just makes life so much easier. We're supportive of each other, and it works really, really good.
Absolutely. Well, man, what do you say? You want to talk a little racing here a little bit?
Is this a racing podcast? Isn't that what I ask every week on PETM back when we were doing?
Yes.
This is a racing podcast. Are we supposed to be talking about racing? Is that what this is about?
Well, all right. So before we do that, I'll do a quick little social media plug here. Everybody, check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, especially if you're playing fantasy. That's where the updates go, all that kind of stuff. I may mess around with TikTok this year. I don't know. People send me videos on that all the time. It's funny. I don't know. Maybe we can get a following there. Might test it, see what happens. It might die after a week. Who knows? But all of that's all at Lap Traffic PC. I still have that giveaway. I got a piece I thought I was going to give this away before the season ended. So now the stick behind it of the playoff battle between Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott's kind of faded away a little bit there. But I've got a piece of sheet metal from Kevin Harvick, and I've got the 2020 124 die-cast race win version from Chase Elliott that I'm giving away at 6,000 followers, and I'm under 300 to go. So I've got that all going on. Good stuff coming. I'll get back to the usual shout outs, all that kind of stuff as things get into the mix here a little more and we get closer to the season. Stay tuned in a couple weeks. I'm going to have last year's fantasy winner on and the update to the new rules for the fantasy league this year. I am really excited. I think this year obviously will be the best yet because it hasn't happened yet. So I know it'll be intense. Sherwin, you going to try to play fantasy again this year?
I'll give it a shot.
All right.
Fair enough. My sticking power for that just is atrocious.
Fair enough.
But I'll give it a shot.
No worries. All right. I meant to tell you this before we get into the racing. For those that are some diehard listeners to both of our shows, we all love to smoke our barbecue stuff, some pulled pork and all that. And I got Sherwin when he was up here last year this pack of rubs called Bone Sucking Sauce, which in my opinion is one of the better rubs out there. It's awesome. And I needed to order some, and I actually went to their website, Sherwin, and they actually make a barbecue sauce on top of the rubs, and I bought one, and it is amazing. It is just as good as the rub. It's like a 14-ounce jar for $7. So they're very reasonably priced. I ordered some extra rubs while I was there because that's what you do. And quick shipping, and I would highly recommend you giving their barbecue sauce a try there, sir.
Well, the dry rubs have been a hit. Yeah. I mean, I just cooked, rare tuna steaks last night with the seafood rub, and I'm not convinced there's a better rub for that type of cooking, with fish and flash cooking in a pan, etc. I don't think you can do it any better.
Yeah, they do.
Restaurant style is what Kristen said, and I said, well, that works for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, they do a nice job, man. Check that out for sure. All right, Sherwin, you were actually at the track last week, man. You were at Atlanta Tire Test. What was it like being back at the track for the first time in a long time? And what'd you see?
Well, it was interesting just stumbling upon that to begin with. I'm not even sure how I did it, except for seeing. I think I saw that there was going to be some media availability, so I just started emailing everybody I knew at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and next thing you know, it was kind of like, yeah, if you just show up, we'll let you in, and you're grandfathered in anyway on the property, so whatever. Yeah, but you go in, and I mean, I was standing 15 feet away from Kurt Busch and Chris Buescher and Ross Chastain doing their stuff for local. It was all local that was there. Like, I mean, I'm local obviously because I'm from Atlanta, but I'm probably the more having a podcast. I was the more,
seasoned
nationwide. Yeah, nationwide than anybody that was in there, really. From what I could tell, they were all like from local Fox stations or around Macon and Atlanta and so forth, and just doing their thing. But I mean, what I noticed was the banking. Like if you've spent any time at Atlanta at all, the banking jumps off the page. That and they widened the front stretch significantly. They took a lane of grass out that used to be part of what they call the football field. That was the quarter-mile track, the Legends track.
Yeah.
I mean, the Legends track is all still there. They just paved a whole row that wasn't paved before. So it looks huge coming down the front stretch. Now, one of the things that they were discussing on the Jeff Gluck's podcast that I stopped listening to so I could jump on with you was that Atlanta kind of got caught in this, got the streams crossed or whatever, like Ghostbusters style. And they built this track to support this whole notion around the 550 horsepower engine package. And then come to find out they've chosen 670 package everywhere else. So what you're going to see at Atlanta, based on what Kurt Busch and Ross and Chris Buescher said, is that it's going to look a lot like Daytona for the first half of a tire run, which means 2 wide, probably, maybe some 3 wide, could be as much as 5 wide off a restart coming down the front straightaway as they fan out to take advantage of all the extra space that's there. But it's also going to be a lot like plate racing in the respect that if you pull out and make a bad move, you're going to fall. You're going to throw out the parachute, as my co-host Rusty says, and you're going to go backwards as many as 10 rows potentially, at least early in a tire run. So it's going to be interesting. The way they were talking about it was, they're probably already coached that they need to be as positive as possible.
Sure.
I mean, there is still the stigma from 2007 for anybody who's old enough to remember Kyle Busch winning at Bristol in the first COT, and getting out and say this car sucks, which was one of the primary reasons why Rick Hendrick fired him, was over that mess, because NASCAR was none too pleased with that bad PR angle. Anywho, that's another time, another place. But it seemed like they were genuinely interested to see what was going to happen when you get 36 cars out there. They weren't drafting around each other while we were there. I think they did some of that stuff the day before when the trucks and the Xfinity cars were also there. There might have been some playing around that was happening. Wouldn't shock me to see the trucks and the Xfinity qualify in single car runs faster than the Cup cars. We've already seen that in the last couple of years. Atlanta is going to be different than every other intermediate track in that we are going to be running a super speedway style motor package there.
Well, I think that's interesting, because it'll, like you said, the first half of a run is going to be super speedway ish. And if they make that groove, like you said, possibly 5 wide coming out of 4, is it going to get a little old if we, just start getting restart after restart because no one wants to give up any room, and, we start clipping fenders into 1 and we just keep lining them up and wrecking them up, without necessarily it being a big one. It's just no one wants to give up any room on the track, and here we have restart after restart.
Yeah, I would say that That certainly is a possibility based on what they said. Until we see it play out, I would say that's probably in the cards. It's probably more likely than the big one, as they say, that you would have, several of those 2 and 3 car incidents in a row.
Sure.
Because of what, especially if we get, these restarts are so slow to begin with that, if you just pull out and miss just by just a tick and start flying backwards, and you got people that got it right coming forward at the same time, it's like Daytona in that respect. There's not a lot of room for that to be going on without cars running into each other.
Sure. Absolutely. All right, man. I want to talk about a driver change in the Xfinity series. Everybody knows how much I love talking about Kaulig Racing. Everybody knows Landon Castle's a good friend of the show. Landon Castle to Kaulig Racing. Were you surprised when you heard this one?
From a performance perspective, no. From his desire and ability to be sponsored in a car that we know can win, yeah, I was. I'm happy for him, I guess, is what it amounts to, because he's going to have a chance to actually win races in that car. And, it's going to be one of those things where that whole, he does really well in a car that runs 22nd. He gets it to finish 18th more often than not. Well, sorry, buddy, you're in a car that runs 3rd to 5th. You're going to need to win races. So let's see what you got.
Yeah, no, this is it's definitely my eyes are going to be glued. I know, Kaulig, they're trophy hunting. They're going to be glued to seeing what they can get out of that car. I'm excited. This is that chance that, guys like him talk about needing to get to be able to go out there and make something happen and make a career for themselves. And Landon's got such a huge following from a social media perspective, from a quote unquote underdog following, if you will. He's got such a following from the sim racing world. A lot of eyes are going to be on Landon, on Kaulig. And if he's able to go out there and do what we've seen this car do, that's only going to help many different avenues of this sport, as from a virtual world, from a, in-person world. I think it's going to be great if he's able to go out there and capitalize on it.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that's helping him get a shot at it, is that he is so active in that digital space that's become as popular, it would appear, as the actual racing, the real cars itself is. And if he can draw more of that crowd that really is a gamer type crowd that hasn't really ever crossed over into wanting to understand what makes the real cars go fast versus what makes the video game or the simulation go fast, that's nothing but a win for everybody. If he can bring some of that, whatever that is, in that's not already there, or maybe that digital media, or not media, but the gaming simulation world, that crosses over all the different genres of racing as opposed to just stock car racing.
Sure.
So it could pull some IMSA type folks that never cared about NASCAR over. It could pull some open wheel, like European style racing over, some karting you never know. If it has that impact, and certainly him winning probably would, and it would open up doors for more people to go, maybe there is an avenue. We're already seeing William Byron and Alex Bowman. Bowman obviously raced, for real. But, Byron really just sort of grew up in that simulation world, and now he's at the peak.
Yeah.
And, if Landon's doing it in Xfinity and he's doing it and Byron's doing it at Cup, now there's a real avenue, potential success for people to jump off of a computer simulator and into a race car.
Yeah, no, it's got a lot of positives, that's for sure. We've had some driver changes. Cup side of things, Kurt Busch making the move over to 2311, Keselowski over to Roush. We've got DiBenedetto's moving down to the Truck Series. We got Ryan Preece joining Stuart Haas as a reserve driver. No official news from a few others. What do you think, man? What's the story you're watching to see who makes the biggest impact with their new seat?
Well, that's a great question, because I think there's compelling stories all among that group of people. The Ryan Preece one may be the one that I'm most curious about, because like his story is so interesting. Like, you just want for that guy to have success. He proved some people wrong in Xfinity before getting to Cup, and we know what that ride is in it, and we know what it isn't. Maybe this is the chance. This is the. I mean, people were going to point to Alex Bowman every time this kind of thing comes up, and not everybody's going to be able to do that.
Sure.
But it would be, if it leads to something else. I mean, we're looking at 3 or 4 guys that are on the edge of retirement, and whether they're capable of being replaced by younger guys or not isn't always the case. So that's cool. DiBenedetto, if there ever was a put up and shut up time, it's now.
Yeah.
Like that dude just PR'd his way right out of the good graces of a lot of NASCAR fans, and myself included. And I'm not going to root against him, because I don't think there's a whole lot of value in that. But he's not exactly going to A1A truck team either.
No. Yeah.
So what's going to happen there? Sure. I'm not sure. I'll tell you this. I've been something of a Kurt Busch admirer for a long time. I've been steadily increasing my vocalism about my admiration for him as a driver and what he's capable of. I'm a full-blown fan. I'm buying Kurt Busch gear this year.
Sure.
I'm just doing it because, the whole Michael Jordan connection, I can suspend my not so great feelings about Denny Hamlin because of how much I like Kurt Busch. And I just like that he keeps being the one to get these chances, because there's a reason for that. And the reason is the guy can flat out drive a race car, and he's learned from his mistakes as well as anybody in the sport ever has.
Sure. Between him and Brad, obviously they're 2 of the biggest names, 2 of the biggest moves in the sport. And to me, it's a matter of, all right, you've got Kurt Busch going into a new organization their sophomore year, and you've got Brad Keselowski making the move over to an organization that's just been not even a blip on the radar as far as a competition perspective is concerned. Roush Fenway, if my math and quick research serves correct, they haven't won a race since 2017. And then you probably got to go back another 3 or 4 years before a win before that, So they've just been, limping around the track, if you will. And that's not what Brad Keselowski wants to do. He's looking for a new challenge, from his career. He's done the driver thing. He's going to go do the driver / ownership thing now. We've seen Tony Stewart have success with that. Can he go and be that next guy to have, that kind of co-role success? We've seen Denny Hamlin do it. He's now gone out, won a race, won races for a different team and all that. So, I think obviously those 2 are going to be the biggest stories to watch to see, what they can bring to their new organizations.
Yeah, Brad certainly is sort of the top of the heap in terms of the focal point of the big changes this year, and whether or not is Roush Fenway Keselowski now, is it rescuable? Brad's got every ounce of Ford Performance's support, and if he can't make it happen, there wouldn't be anybody who could. Just a second, we'll take a brief time out here to say rest in peace, Bob Keselowski.
Absolutely.
Another loss over the holidays. And I hope for Brad's sake that's just more drive to get it as right as he can. And I assume that he's never lacked for drive. That's for sure. We know he can drive a race car. Can Roush? Can they put one under him, or can he be the driver of the boat, the ship that gets it all right, and with Roush kind of as a sidekick?
Well, so I wonder, am I making too big a leap here to say what happens here maybe determines what happens to, Richard Childress Racing and, Richard Petty Motorsports? Those three organizations as a whole have kind of been just there, right? Not really making noise in too great of, with a megaphone or anything like that. Is this maybe, are they looking to this to see what they need to do to maybe switch things, or what not to do if this doesn't work?
Well, I think a big step for Petty is getting out from underneath that debt that they've been carrying for so long, which, when you partner with a billionaire airplane builder / operator, that'll help. There's a lot of things about, Petty name carries with it all the things that the Petty name should.
Sure.
But the thing that it's been carrying with it for about 15 years now that a lot of people probably aren't as privy to is the somewhere between $7 to $9 million worth of operating debt that they accumulated over the years, and hence the 4 different mergers they've made over the past 25 years. I hope this is the one, but I'll have to believe it, or I'll have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. All right, man. A little different shakeup to the start of the season. We're not going to be at Daytona for 2 weeks. We're going to go out west for the Clash at the LA Coliseum. Is this, overhyped for an exhibition race? Are you buying into it? Where are you at with it?
I don't think it's overhyped. If anything, I think it's kind of passe. They've been kind of low key outside of the NASCAR world up until they managed to squeak in a promo onto the Fox NFL broadcast over the weekend with the completed version of what the track looks like now, which is a completely paved infield at the LA Coliseum, and the racetrack walls in place and the entry and exits to the track, et cetera. I don't see how this can hurt, especially with a short track on the horizon in the process. It's not a wish list thing. It's happening. We're going to have Martinsville West at Fontana here in a real short order.
Yeah.
That's a market that NASCAR lost very quickly after picking up, and they need it back. They really do. And I really don't care what the dyed-in-the-wool Southeastern NASCAR fans have to say about it, because they clearly don't understand the way big business operates if they don't think we need LA.
No, I'm with you there. I'm excited for that. I think that's going to be a great addition to the West Coast swing in lieu of the traditional Fontana, if you will. Anytime we can get, an extra short track in, yes, sign me up for that. I've been very vocal over the last 5 years on my take on exhibition type things. I will tune in just because it's not going to be the typical Clash shit show of, 22 cars with 12 limping around the finish line, so to speak. Like, this is actually going to be, worth the time investment into it. So I'm excited from that. I'm excited to see, I guess what I'm really curious to see is, does a temporary track surface, not a temporary dirt surface, but an actual asphalt track surface, provide good quality racing? And if so, does that maybe shift some direction from some of these intermediate tracks that have been missing the boat over the last few years? Something needs to be done there.
I'd certainly be interested in seeing if it does. I mean, I don't know The biggest issue we have with these super venues that were all the rage starting in the early 90s, or not even starting in the early 90s, really starting in the 60s. But as a result of the whole, concerts moved out of smaller venues into gigantic venues, and racetrack operators were trying to capitalize on things like that, multi-use facilities. I think the way of the Kansas model is probably more likely. I mean, we know for sure, or without a doubt, Atlanta has been trying for 3 or 4 years now to get a casino in downtown, and then also a casino at the racetrack, and do very much like what Kansas has done. State of Georgia is obviously a tricky state to do any kind of weird business in, because they just be weird. We're still behind the times on the THC stuff here too. They don't know what the hell to do with that. But I don't, as far as temporary asphalt surfaces go, or hard surfaces, that's probably going to be tough. I think that's just that's a pay it forward kind of adventure. NASCAR was willing to say, we'll just foot the bill and see what happens.
Sure.
As a marketing tool for the West Coast swing, maybe that is enough to get people excited to see something that looks like the Madhouse in Greenville Pickens, or not Greenville Pickens, but Bowman Gray. Some of that old school asphalt, tiny little tracks on football fields. I don't think there's not a lot of that out west, for sure. Certainly not with big stock cars on it.
Yep.
That was some of the joke. With the running joke was, what is this NASCAR stuff doing on the football broadcast? And what in the hell have they done to the LA Coliseum? And it's like, wow. And they're like, oh, they're going to struggle to hit 25 miles an hour. And I'm like, no, average speed's going to be about 82. Average speed's going to be about 82 miles an hour. So sorry, Charlie, to bust your bubble, but it's going to be a hell of a lot faster than you think.
Yes. Yeah. No, and that's what's going to make it fun to watch and to see, the potential preview to what we're going to get at the, as you called it, the Martinsville West, which I think they should just call it that. I think that'd be pretty cool. All right, man. Early headlines 2022. What are we going to see?
I think what we're going to find out real quickly is what Kyle Larson was able to do in last year's car specific to last year's car, or is it just Kyle Larson being in ultra top flight equipment? Is the rest of Hendrick going to be chasing their own teammate to see who's the best car in the sport? And can anybody else keep up?
Yeah.
At this point, beyond, the Gibbs folks are going to get their 5 or 6, but are they going to get their 10 or 12 like maybe they used to? Are any of these teams going to have a breakthrough win that's not to belittle what Bubba did, but is anybody going to have a breakthrough win that's not a restrictor plate style or super speedway style with the rain situation? Is somebody going to break through in that respect? Is Atlanta really going to be, Daytona Junior? If it is, we're going to see the exact same thing again in July. And does that mean Atlanta gets to keep their race weekends because it looks so cool? They're like, yeah, this is neat doing it on a quad 1.5 mile oval. Or is it going to be like, we just did this 3 weeks ago at the Firecracker 400?
Sure. Yeah. I'm with you there. For me, 2 headlines are, are we talking about Stewart-Haas getting back to victory lane, or are we not talking about Stewart-Haas getting back to victory lane? And my other headline is about the car. Are fans buying in? Do we get a better racing product, or is it, same old, which based on what I've seen from the testing, I think the speed's going to be there. So it's a matter of, what do we see when we get all 36 cars on the track at 1.5 miles and really seeing what this car does in traffic.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. So they did allow us to come right up to pit wall during the test at Atlanta. And Kurt Busch did a stop and go sort of pit practice type situation where he pulled in, stopped, waited the amount of time that it would take to change the tires, put it in gear, and left. And while the cars don't sound that loud on track at pace in single car runs, in the pits, they are louder than I remember any stock car being. And you can hear stuff happening in the rear end that you used to not could. So here's a little technical lesson for everybody at home that doesn't know this. When you pull into your pit stop to change 4 tires in a stock car, the right sides go on with the brake supply and the car in neutral. Then while the carriers are moving around to the left side of the car, the driver takes his foot off the brake, puts in the clutch pedal, and puts it into gear, and then is operating both pedals at the same time and the gas with his heel. Well, there's all kinds of moving parts in that rear housing now because it is independent rear suspension. So it clunked around 2 or 3 times when Kurt slammed it into gear, and you're like, I wonder what's going on in there. So I'm very curious to see, what independent rear suspension really means. That's supposed to eliminate any of the discussion about limited slip, because that's all about solid rear axles anyway. So I'm curious to see if that makes Martinsville or somewhere like that even more fun to get around, or the corner speed's going to go up because of it. Certainly Junior said that testing at Bowman Gray, that car turns way, way better than the old car, and the brake package is absurd, is kind of what the general information was. The car just slows down. Like, you don't even like, it really, really slows down when you hit the brakes. Nice.
All right, man. Last thing for me here. Well, I got 2 things. Number one, it's early. We really haven't talked about too much of the schedule, but I know we want to get back to the racetrack together. What's on the bucket list if we can make it happen in 2022?
Well, obviously Atlanta, right out of the gate for me. It's less than a 30-minute ride for me. We're going to be doing media stuffs again, which, that includes you whenever it is you can come back.
Yes.
My girlfriend's going to benefit from, her first cup race. She's going to get to do it with a media pass, which is cheating.
Yeah. You almost got to take her somewhere else first, just to
I know. Well, yeah, I know. I want to take her to the dirt track in Sonoy and let her see that and go, this is what grassroots racing is. Right. Now, and then we're just in the stands. We're going to come home all dirty.
Yep.
Then we're going to go to the big track, and you're going to see it from the perspective of, you're going to be allowed to go places you can't go anywhere else. And Absolutely. That's just bottom line.
Yeah.
And, but I mean, I'm trying to cook up all kinds of plans. I don't know if you remember Evan Roller or him wandering around in the Twitter sphere, but
yes.
He's warming up to camper. We're trying to figure out where he's going to go and where I'm going to go. We're going to meet up. I mean, all the things are in play that could be in play. I'd love to go to Michigan later in the year when you get things settled with the baby.
Yes. So that's the first half of the year definitely is probably up in the air. But, Lindsay knows how badly the last few years I have been dying to get to Bristol and Martinsville. And between Michigan, August 7th, Bristol night race, September 17th, and Martinsville, October 30th, those are spaced out, I think, perfectly to where I could make all of them maybe work. I definitely have ample time off this year. I've got, I've got almost 5 weeks vacation to play with. So 4-day weekends are not, out of the scope for me. So it's just a matter of, making things work as we get closer. So Lap Traffic PETM will be back at the racetrack for sure in 2022. So that's
no doubt. I was showing Kristen pictures of Bristol at night, And I was like, yeah, these stadiums are all nice. They play college football in. This is the real stadium.
This is where it
And I was
happens.
like, this stadium holds 160,000 people. She's like, you've been there? And I said, up until COVID, I hadn't missed that race since 2007.
Yeah. No,
She's like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, this is for real. I told you that once I get healthy again, this is for real. Racing is my world.
Thing. Yep. Yep. All right, man. Last thing that I've got for you. Are we going to hear Rusty Sherwin, the PETM podcast, on the airwaves this year?
I don't know. I actually asked him earlier today if he had given it any thought, and he hasn't gotten back to me yet. He just got back from a long weekend up in the mountains, and that much time off, it's really it almost creates a whole new roadblock. It's almost like starting over.
Sure.
I think I'm not sure what his interest level is. I think he's probably been concerned all this time about what am I capable of doing? Well,
Sure.
Guess what? I'm capable of doing just about anything now. So I hope the answer is yes. It was just too fun. Even if it's once a month, maybe. I don't know what I could convince him to do. Every week's probably not going to be a thing ever again, I would imagine. Just because we're just so, once you get out of touch with it, that's why I always urge people, keep doing it no matter what, just keep doing it. Because if you let a week slip, it becomes 2, 3, 4, 5. Next thing you know, you quit altogether. And that's kind of where we're at. But our hand was forced to a degree, but he was certainly interested in all the stuff I shared with him about being at Atlanta and asking me questions about it. So I know the interest is there.
Cool. I
think he's just been waiting to figure out, okay, are you really healthy enough to get back into this sport 2 feet at a time or what? And I think that was kind of the kicker was, here I am at Atlanta Motor Speedway and cars are going fast and I'm pretending to be media.
Well, listen, I hope like hell to hear you guys. I hope like hell to be back on your show sooner rather than later. Worst case, you've always got an invite here. Both of you guys do. That's no question over here. So, worst case, you guys make appearances here to keep the voices out there and keep things going. And, live tweeting will be here. The baby's going to sleep its ass off a lot. So it's just going to be me holding the baby in one hand, phone and Twitter in the other, watching racing this year. I honestly think I'll be able to watch more racing this year because, it would years past, it would be like, on a Friday night, I want to watch a truck race. Lindsay wants to go do something and I got to fight tooth and nail. We're just going to be home. So, I'm going to hold the baby and watch racing. So I'm I might have more to say on Monday and Tuesday nights. So we'll see what happens.
There is some peace of mind that comes with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing that you're just not going anywhere.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah.
We're not, there's no pressure to go out. There's no pressure to do anything except be right here. And we might as well have the TV on if we're going to be here.
And it might as well be on racing.
Yeah. That's where I'm at with it. I'm steadily whacking Kristen over the head. I'm like, I don't care if it's satellite internet. You just got to get some of it so that I
love it.
Satisfy my urge. I was running around the house a little bit this fall, trying to find that one spot where we get 3 bars so that I could leave my burner phone there on NASCAR.com to play the scanner and, hope the guys aren't cussing too much so the kids don't pick up on it.
Right.
Although I'm sure I'm the bad influence in the language department in that house.
Oh, me too.
Kristen's really good about it, except for when she's talking to me. But me, I'm just,
yep.
I gotta watch it.
I will be called in. Mr. Crowd, do you know what your son said? What's wrong with that?
Right.
Did he use it in the right context? That's what I want to know.
That's the rule.
If not, then him and I are going to have a talk.
That is the rule. If they do, then it's just hey, don't do that.
Right. Yes. Well, man, listen, this was so much fun. It was great to catch up, great to talk, great to hear your story, your success. Where can everybody follow you and the show for the hopeful premiere of PETM once again?
Well, you can follow me at Pregame Engineer. That's where I'm the most active now. Kind of has been since the PETM went into hibernation. But it's still there at PETM Podcast. I try to put the racing stuff over there as much as I can. And then the PETM YouTube page is still there. There's a complete archive of everything that we ever did there. Video going all the way back to like the 70th something episode or something like that. You know, we were getting pretty close to 300 before we gave it up. So yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic to where maybe a month ago I was not at all. I'm a little more optimistic now.
That's awesome.
I think if we can get Rusty back to the racetrack, that might be the one final thing that tips the apple cart the right direction.
I love it. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, that is going to do it for episode 266 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. Make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, Twitter at LapTrafficPC. I'll be back in another week or two with some fantasy news on the 2022 Lap Traffic Fantasy League. Don't get caught chasing the lucky dog. Make sure you tune in each and every week to the Lap Traffic Podcast. See ya!